Hi everyone, it's Raina. So this video is for those people who have their natal Venus in either a square or opposition to Neptune. And when I was looking for information online, they often combine those two challenging, if you will, aspects in a single on a single web page or article. So the reason for this, and you find this with a lot of aspects that I have looked up, is because there are a lot of similarities between those two aspects. There might be subtle differences, but not enough to warrant a separate, article. So hence, I'm going to do it in this particular video. So when I do private readings, I do sometimes do readings for people who are in relationships and they're trying to figure out what to do or things like that. Usually, in this particular case, it would be somebody who already is involved in a relationship. Obviously, some people are looking for readings when they're not in relationships that are love readings. But in any case, when they're telling me their scenario, sometimes I get a feel for that they are viewing the relationship in a way that the other person probably is not. And the one that we can think of the most frequently, or one of the ones, is the case of somebody who is having they think they're having this grand love affair, and the other person considers them a friend with benefits, where they're coming over there, having sex, not staying, not having much conversation, not and the usually, of course, I deal mostly with women, so it's hard to tell how it would be overall, but I assume that it would mostly fall on the woman to be this way. Usually the woman is, and this is heterosexual we're talking about, the woman is wanting more intimacy outside of the sex. She wants to have conversations. She wants the other person to tell her that he loves her. And because she's not getting that, after, a little while of having it just be that way and not feeling that the relationship is going anywhere, that's when the woman starts to get very frustrated. And so that can be one of the scenarios. Now, they may not tell that to me just straight away. They might say some other things, but I can infer what might be going on. And sometimes, it might even be a situation of financial, a gravy train, gold digger, that type of situation. But there's like this one person is really blinded by this situation, and may in some cases be building it up. And I'll talk about the opposition, how that can be a projection of some fantasy onto somebody. But anyway, the thing that has to be mentioned about these aspects is that we're talking about Venus, the planet of love and beauty, that is colliding with Neptune, which is all about illusion, but illusion also in the form of, to me, of an ideal, where it's like the perfect love. And so if I had a conjunction with these two, or a trine or a sextile, the person may be able to go in and out of a relationship with a healthy sense of reality, but they still are very romantic. They still can take the best of Neptune, what Neptune has to offer, and run with it, but they're not going to lose themselves. Now, actually the conjunction, they could be very intoxicated by love, but But when we're talking about a square, we're talking about a clash. And we have to look at the planets that are, I mean, the signs that are involved in the square too, because that can often give us a bit of a hint of what is going on. For instance, especially with the Venus sign, because Venus is a personal planet. So for instance, if somebody has Venus in Scorpio and it's squaring off to you know Neptune in, I could say, Leo or something like that. Um, that person who has Venus in Scorpio is already very intense when it comes to love. Now, if Venus, let's say Venus is in an air sign, they may have like this conceptualization of love that is not really grounded in reality. As a matter of fact, I did consult a couple of sites. One of them was cafeastrology.com, but I can't remember. I don't think that was where I saw it. And they were talking about, and they said something to the effect of I think they said something like intellectualizing love. I can't remember the exact word that they used, but I thought that was kind of unusual because neither one of these planets I associate with that. I have a feeling what they're referring to is with Neptune, it's like creating these concepts. When somebody is idealizing something, they have something in their mind that is the ideal, the ultimate. And so something like that. And so the bottom line is that the person is not living in the relationship in a real way. There's like this quality to the relationship that is very fantasy laden. And they may not even have much to go on in terms of their own behaviors or, experiences with that person. They may be very scant, very, very few and far between. So anyway, this is a position because Neptune can relate to compassion. This can be compassion and love, loving people who are broken. Neptune can bring the addicts, the people with mental problems, and that could be behavioral problems, who can't seem to get along with the boss, who are always, who have like just some kind of, like, maybe they have anger management issues. Like I said, addiction, maybe they're deceptive. Neptune can be about deception. And it's funny, I didn't see much about that specifically, but I believe I've read that in the past. It's funny, sometimes I feel like, oh, am I making this up? But I know that I retained it from somewhere. And the thing is that if you have this square or this opposition, you're going into the relationship maybe knowing full and well that people have these, that your partner or potential partner has these problems, but you think that you can fix them. You think that you can heal them. So that can be this diluted quality. And really, going into relationships, we should be content with how that person is. We shouldn't look at that person as a project that we're going to try to fix them. So this compassion that you may feel may have you stay with them longer than you should. Now, there are people who really suffer in love, and eventually they, get the memo that the other person isn't going to change. Maybe the behavior that they're dealing with gets worse and worse. And finally, they just can't do it anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a sacrificial quality when it comes to love with either of these combinations, because Neptune rules Pisces. And so to me, this can be like a Venus and Pisces situation on the negative side. Venus is actually exalted in Pisces, so it's not that it has to be bad. But when we're talking about the square and opposition, this is going to be more challenging. With the opposition, as I was talking about earlier, there can be a projection. When you have oppositions, you could be projecting something onto somebody else. And I feel like usually this is done in order to have a sense of something to believe in. Well, with Neptune especially, sometimes oppositions, it's to try to avoid taking responsibility. But I mean, you can say it even in this case, avoiding taking responsibility for your own salvation, if you will. Just like people, create these heroes and other people, these saviors. They can create it within the partner, and the partner is this exalted figure in their eyes, and really, that person may not have those qualities, but the person is kind of blinded. It's like in Don Quixote, Dulcinea. She was a prostitute, and she was seen as this, you know, saintly woman. Now, not to say that can't be true. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that's what Cervantes was trying to show, is that everybody has that goodness within themselves that other people don't necessarily see. And that's kind of like what you may realize, is that you're very, because you're very compassionate, you can see the good in people. And yet when it comes to love and trying to have this project of rehabilitating somebody, it's not really a good basis for a relationship. It's setting up a situation where you're kind of the more together person, and maybe that on some level that feels safe, satisfying, what have you. But on another level, you're going to do the heavy lifting in the relationship, and you're not going to have a partner who is your equal. You're going to have somebody that you feel like you have to help, rather than is your companion. There's not going to be that same quality of the relationship. And another thing that is very interesting is, well, I'm just going to, because I want to talk about some other things that don't specifically involve relationships that can be part of these hard angles. But one thing I wanted to say, if you are somebody who is in a relationship with, or you have a pattern of being in this type of relationship, is to, I think one of the best things you can ever do is to go very slowly in a relationship, because you may tend to get very, very infatuated so quickly when you're with somebody that you lose a sense of perspective. And by allowing yourself, even if you do feel a strong desire, by allowing yourself time to really get to know somebody past that real strong, really strong phase of infatuation, you might actually be able to spot those people who cannot keep up that facade for long, if they're trying to make themselves look like they're perfect. And that's another thing too, because that might make you a magnet to people who are very, I don't want to say sociopathic, that takes it to the ultimate level, but people who are very like abusive, because some of them can put on a good face, put on a good show until they get you where they want you. So you might be really impressed with somebody who acts perfectly at all times. And somebody else might say, wait, something isn't quite right. This person seems kind of phony. They're, I don't think, they don't seem like they're really being their authentic self. So the thing is, you have to be able to value that. And there can be a quality where you do get disillusioned by love. And that's what you're seeking to avoid when you are involved in these types of behaviors, because you want, because you are in love with love, so you want to stay there. And really the best thing you could do is to be very analytical and discerning. And if somebody seems too good to be true, don't be, don't celebrate and say, wow, be a little bit reserved and spend more time with that person and see how they treat other people. They may treat you like gold, but if they treat the wait staff like crap, if they treat other people like crap, that could be a red flag that they're just putting on an act for you. And once they get you, you'll be how they treat other people will be how they treat you. And yeah, that was basically what I want to say about relationship issues. Um, yeah, and one thing that I put down here is it's seeing what you want to see versus reality. And they mentioned that for the opposition, and that's part of idealizing that person. And one thing about the opposition and idealizing a person, this is like projection. And if you had a father who, like if you're a woman, because Venus, is about the feminine. So if you're a woman who had a father who was not in your life, you may have constructed a fantasy about him. Maybe you were told a fantasy or told these great things about him, but whether they were really true, whether they were exaggerated, who knows? But they might have told you that to make you feel better. Maybe he was in prison or something, and they told you that he was in the military and he's such a brave man and blah, blah, blah. And the thing is that it can be very easy to project onto a man if your father, or maybe your father was somebody who had problems and you didn't want to see that side. One of the things that they said too was that if you have had like a troubled background with one or both of your parents, that you may have like went into fantasy mode to try to protect yourself from the reality of your situation. And so that just remains a pattern in adulthood. And so then projecting some mythical qualities onto a partner can be the end result. So in any case, the other things that they were talking about, which I didn't even think about, was trying to alter your appearance to please your partner, because Venus can be, your looks, beauty, and things like that. And so there, I think, and so I put down a plastic surgery addict, because Neptune can create distortion and Venus can be this, so, and also this ideal of what beauty is. And so not being able to see things very clearly within yourself about your looks. It's interesting, Venus rules two houses in the chart. The second house of earned income, and also your possessions, that is ruled by the sign is Taurus, but also it has to do with self-esteem. And the seventh house is marriage and Libra. But in that second house, it's not just the money that you earn, but your self-esteem, your self-worth. So, does the person have this sense of self-worth that is wrapped up in their looks? Neptune can rule photography. And so I could see somebody who, doesn't have a good sense, maybe whatever it is your beauty ideal is kind of a bit different too, than, or distorted, if you will. But also trying to do it to keep your partner. So getting breast implants, if that person wants you to. And there are some women that do it. And this is not to put anybody down. I'm just saying that it's altering your physical appearance for somebody else. But I could see you doing it within yourself, just not seeing what you should see within yourself, that sense of distortion. So I thought that was really interesting. Okay, that's what I have for you guys. I hope that was that resonated with you. And In any case, like I said, I see this when I do readings. If you would like a reading, please click on the link below to see what types I offer. Take care. Bye.